A vote for the SDA is a vote for all common Singaporeans. Welcome to this wonderful online rally for the Singapore Democratic Alliance. I'm here to share with you some of the important points which will help you decide that the SDA is the right party for you to vote in this general election. Because a voice for the people is what we bring forward. Making sure that your town council is well taken care of is what we promise you. Making sure we write the right letters to all the government agencies, to every department to help you, to have you get your goals and your tasks achieved is what we promise you. Now, the only way to improve the plight of all Singaporeans like you and I is to make sure that we work on removing the bad policies of the outgoing government and replacing it with good policies in the years to come. That's why you really need to support the SDA. A vote for the SDA will be the vote for success of Singapore in the next 5, 10, 15, if not 50 years. We need to vote in leaders who will listen. We need to vote in leaders who will care for you. You need to help us to vote in leaders who will be there for you all the way. And SDA promises to be there for you. For the last 13 years, we have walked the ground in Pasir Ris Punggol. Especially in the last 5 years, more than 3.5 million lunch boxes have been given out in 7 stations all around Pasir Ris Punggol. We bring our elderly and all other residents for outing. We give them good medical aid. We give them even legal aid. Even small things like haircuts are provided for the residents of Pasir Ris Punggol. And in the last one and a half weeks, as we walked on the ground, as we went up the HDB blocks, as we met most of you in hawker centers and in the malls, many of you are appreciative of all the good work that we have been putting in. Look, this is our moral obligation. If so many of you support us, if so many of you recognize us even with the masks on, and if many of you fellow residents in Pasir Ris Punggol tell us that you want us to come back to serve you like we did in the last 2 general elections, we promise to be there. And this time we look forward to your support, because I've said this before, there's always the government, there's always the need for an alternative opposition party, but this cannot happen unless you, my fellow Pasir Ris Punggol residents, cast that vote for SDA. Remember the red star with the 4 blue circles below. Vote for SDA for a better future. When you elect us to Parliament, we will not just be the voice of the people in Parliament, but we will be there in every way to serve you both inside and outside Parliament. My party leader, Mr. Desmond Lim, you may remember him, and you will remember that when Mr. Chiam Si Tong was running Potong Pasir, Mr. Desmond Lim was his right-hand man, was running the town council. So we have got very good experience. We also have Mr. Kelvin Ong on our team, who is currently already participating in the running of town councils right now in other parts of Singapore. The senior experience of Mr. Abu Muhammad will go miles ahead to guide us younger leaders of this party to help you serve. And not to forget Mr. Kushwadi with his brilliance in speaking and relating to people. I am very sure you will be the best of friends with all 5 of us, and you will be happy that as you cast the vote for SDA on this polling day, the 10th of July, it is the best decision of your life that you have ever made. In this general election, we are going to be facing a lot of issues because of the COVID-19 pandemic. You know and I know that many Singaporeans are very disappointed with the response of the 4G team and how they have responded to the pandemic so far. In fact, when they were asked what are your current plans and what are your future plans, instead of giving a good answer to what their good plans are to help Singaporeans move forward after the COVID-19, in fact they turned the question around and they said, ask the opposition leaders what are their plans. And today, as we were interviewed after Dr. Tan Cheng Bock came down to Pasir Ris Punggol to support our walkabouts, and we are very thankful that Dr. Tan Cheng Bock took a time out from his busy schedule, and you may have seen it on the news, you may have read about it in the papers, so I won't take up much of your time to tell you more about it. But I'll tell you a beautiful thing. After that walkabout and after meeting up with Dr. Tan, Desmond Lim, my party leader, was asked the same question. What is your response to the government outgoing government leaders saying that no, the opposition don't even have any COVID-19 plans going forward to help Singaporeans. But I like to remind you, if you get the time, please listen to our online rallies, especially the one that was held about 2 days ago. It is entitled the COVID-19 Recovery Plans of the SDA, and we not only cover the 4 main ones that I will share with you, which are in the manifesto itself, but we covered more than 16 other action points that the Singapore Democratic Alliance think tank has already put into plan, and we will put forward to make sure you have a good future after this pandemic is over and as we look forward to a vaccine coming out. But Mr. Desmond also reminded us today on TV that look, the 70% of Singaporeans who gave the mandate to the PAP the last general election, they gave them the responsibility to make sure the government gets us Singaporeans out of all these kind of pandemics and downturns. But instead of doing the responsible thing of helping people succeed, what did the government do? They called for an election. Now there is nothing I can do about this election being called, nothing that you can complain anymore. It is time we exercised our right to cast the vote so that in the next 5 years, 15 years, 50 years, we do not have unilateral decisions by just one party which will affect the ongoing life of Singaporeans as a whole. We need the voices of multiple parties. We have experts today in the politicians lineup of all alternative parties, and you need to give us this opportunity to prove ourselves, to serve you, because let me remind you, 50 over years ago, even Mr. Lee Kuan Yew came from the background of opposition parties, and the brave Singaporeans of that time gave him and his team an opportunity to come forward, bring Singapore from third world to the first world status. Today, because of COVID-19, maybe we are going down again, and you need another strong team of opposition, alternative leaders like us to come forward to serve you, to bring Singapore to the next greater heights for a better life for you and all Singaporeans. Like I said earlier, this was a total irresponsible thing to do. When cases of COVID-19 are rising, even dengue cases are rising. And if you look around, fellow Singaporeans like you and I are struggling with work. And it was totally irresponsible for the government to call for this election. Now think about it. Touch your heart. Ask yourself, why are we being put into such difficult positions to go out there as a country and then risk the spread of a second wave of the pandemic? Look, other countries that have loosened their controls, they have faced such circumstances. So at this point, before I ask you for your vote and before I ask you to support us, I just want to remind you, our personal health is our personal responsibility. Those leaders have been flop and flipping again. First they told us not to wear the masks, and then if you don't wear the mask, you pay $300. First they told us we'll give you your CPF at 55, and today my fellow Singaporeans are pushing trolleys in the airport, are collecting cardboards at an old age, just worried, have I collected enough cardboards to pay for a simple lunch? These are the people we are fighting for. Think about the PMETs who are being displaced. We met so many parents, we met so many fathers who cannot go to sleep peacefully because they're worried. They're worried, who's going to take care of my family, my children? What is their future going to be like if the continuation of the bad policies by the new 4G government continues at the rate it has destroyed Singapore? And not only the elderly or the PMETs, the middle age, but think of the young graduates too, my dear friends. They are really in pain because they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a good education. Maybe it was their parents' money. Some of them took bank loans to go for these studies. Maybe not even in Singapore, but even more expensive places overseas. And as they come out of universities, not getting a good job is a great tension, a great worry, a great pain for them. And these are the people we are fighting for. They are working today as cashiers in supermarkets when their qualification allows them to get much better, higher qualified jobs with better salaries. And I met some of them on the walkabouts and streets, and they said, look, Mr. Singh, the problem is this: the government may say we are coming up with 100,000 new jobs, but they are temporary jobs. They are also social ambassador kind of positions. They are internships. They are very, you can say, jobs with no long-term security. It is just a feel-good attitude, like one of the young men who I just met earlier this afternoon. He said it's a feel-good attitude that they want us to feel during this election period, so we vote for the incumbent party. But after that, we have got no job security. We have got nothing long-term to look for. We need the alternative voices to come in to have a better future for all Singaporeans and not just the elite. Vote for SDA. Your vote will go a long way in making life not just for you, but your children and the future of this country much better and better. Now, there are people who keep asking us, why are you not giving up? Why are you not giving up? You lost in the last 2 general elections here, and in spite of a very dangerous situation of walking the streets, up and down the blocks, and the fact that you even fainted on one of the walkabouts, why are you still coming back again and again? And I think the answer is very simple. It is our moral responsibility after having served the residents in the last 13 years. And I think it is our moral responsibility as we speak to fellow residents like you, as we look in their eyes, we feel the pain of the bad policies of the outgoing government. It is no time for us to rest. Like great leaders say, we will walk the talk. We will walk even if we have to sacrifice our lives, because this nation, Singapore, my land, is something we are proud of and will stand up forever, ever and ever. And that is the reason we keep coming back. And for the last 13 years to have served you, we have already built so many close bonds with so many of you in Pasir Ris Punggol. I look forward to meeting you again in person. This time it may have been much shorter walkabouts. It may also have been a little less time on the ground speaking to you, although you accepted our flyers, although you gave us fist pumps instead of the regular handshakes, and although many of you are still watching our online rallies with the reach going up to even hundreds of thousands of views. We thank you for that. This is your love. This is your support. And then with such great love, such great support, how can we stop coming back to serve you? We will always take the pride to come and serve you, but we need your help. Go knock on every neighbor's door in the last few hours before the general election. Tell them the SDA is your friend. The SDA is not a fly-by-night organization. The SDA chose not to diversify and go to many SMCs and GRCs. The SDA chose to come back only again in Pasir Ris Punggol, and for the third time, in spite of the fact that they did not win the previous general elections, because we love you, we care for you, and we see that love that you have for us and the care you have for us. I thank you for the 35.7% votes you gave us back in 2011 general election, and I thank you for making us the third largest percentage count in 2015 general election after the PAP and WP. Yes, on a national level, the SDA Singapore Democratic Alliance had the third largest percentage count in spite of the Lee Kuan Yew factor in the last general election. This time, I know the COVID-19 may be a factor in helping you to decide on which side you want to support, but I tell you something, a vote for SDA, as I reminded you, is a vote for common people, and I assure you, the moment you cast your vote for us, it will go a long way in helping all of you to have a better time in the town council, to have better voices in parliament, and most importantly, to have better representation in every way that we can help you. Vote for SDA. My dear fellow Singaporeans, as I come to the end of my rally, I just have a few very important questions for you to ask yourself. And this is so very important because I'm going to end off not with all the list of long 20 resolutions that we have put up in our previous online rallies for you to listen at your own comfort, but more importantly, to put forward to you the 4 main proposals that we will fight for all Singaporeans. Because touch your heart, ask yourself, why have our lives been destroyed in the last 5, if not the 10 years? Ask yourself, has our life ever got better? Ask yourself, are your family and your friends any more happier than they used to be? And if the answer to any of my questions above is a no, then you know that you have to now put in the right people like us in Parliament. And the 4 things quickly to make sure that you do not have a difficult time again. It's the most important 4 things that I'm going to share with you, because for a very long time, you know and I know, the PAP has been given a free run to decide whatever they want to unilaterally. It is time to take back that control. Democracy is the rule of the people, for the people, by the people, and you and I, the common people, need to have that control once again to make Singapore better. So the first promise that I make to you, and this is very important, we promise to implement these changes, whatever the changes that are needed. And the first one is to address the very first promise is to address the high cost of living in Singapore. We promise, and we are the only party to ask that the GST rate be cut down to 3% for basic necessities, food and other household items, and slowly have a progressive system towards 15% for high-end luxury goods. We also are the only party to bring down the cost of living, to ask that extravagant expenses by the outgoing party and the incumbent government be cut down, so that the savings can be channeled into bringing the cost of living down and helping all Singaporeans. Because when you take the long-term maintenance cost of all these new projects like the Founders Memorial or the Jewel and many others, the long-term maintenance cost is going to be very expensive for us. Secondly, we're going to push for the tackling of social inequality within Singaporeans. Like I shared, read the manifesto, listen to our other videos for greater details. But the main general point is that 1% to 5% of our annual net returns be reserved to help lower-end Singaporeans, the poorest Singaporeans, to have a good starting line, to have a good future. Let us not forget, last year there was 17.6 billion or $17 billion if I'm not mistaken, and this year the net returns are expected to be about 18.6 billion. Now, taking a fraction of that little fraction from this big amount of money on our net returns to help our fellow Singaporeans is our moral responsibility, and I think you will love to be of service to our fellow Singaporeans. The third point, which is very important, is the CPF. It is a totally broken system. We have spoken in detail about why is it broken, and it was broken promises too, because there was a time when people said that Singapore won't make it, but they said at 55 we will return your CPF in full. Then the age went to 58, went to 60, to 62, and the minimum sum has also been rising. The cost of living is rising, the minimum sum required is rising, but what is not rising is our ability to withdraw our CPF at the right retirement age. Now, we are not an irresponsible party. We will leave enough money in the MediSave and MediShield Life to make sure that the requirements for medical attention for the elderly are taken care. But we want the bulk of the money to be returned to all Singaporeans at the retirement age, which is currently at 62, so that our elderly can live a life of dignity towards the last years of their life. And let's not forget, one day you and I are also going to grow old. If we don't bring in good policies right now, imagine yourself selling tissues, collecting cardboards, or pushing trolleys at your old age. I am sure you do not want that too, right? And the last point, the last but not the least important. In fact, many Singaporeans we have been meeting are saying this is the most important point. Many foreigners, so-called foreign talents, have come in here, displaced our very well-qualified, well-educated and very intelligent local Singaporeans. Don't get us wrong, we need the foreign workers. And if you listen to our post-COVID-19 recovery plan online rally videos, you will know that we will focus on taking good care of their hostels, because there are many jobs that local Singaporeans may not be ready to take up. Because the salary of 700 given to a Bangladeshi friend to clean our town council, maybe he loves it, but for a fellow Singaporean, 700 will never go a long way in taking care of any families. We are not against those foreign workers. Who are we against is the unruly attention that's given to all these foreign talents which are taking or who are taking away jobs that Singaporeans could do ourselves. So the SDA proposes that there should be a list of number one accredited universities that are from our own Singaporean side, to make sure the right kind of foreign talents come in, and there are better quota systems. And any companies that go against these kind of good quota systems, we will make sure they are punished or fined or given some kind of control to make sure they do not do such things again. Why? So that jobs can come back to you and me and fellow Singaporeans who deserve it. As I end off my online rally, this week, the last 10 days was a very difficult time for all of us, because the last few months have been difficult times for all Singaporeans. But my dear fellow Singaporeans, we have a golden opportunity this time, because Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, in his book called The Hard Truths, if I remember, it was on page 68 as I was reading, he said something very important. He said that day will come, a time will come, a day will come, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have his book in front of me, but he said a day will come when the PAP leaders have declined in quality, or when the opposition has been able to put forward the kind of leaders who are able to bring Singapore forward to a greater height. When that day comes, the voters will surely, sooner than later, bring in the opposition, the alternative leaders, to make sure they bring the country to greater heights. His words were that day would come. I think the day is here. I repeat, he said the day would come, but I think the day is here. And on behalf of all the leaders of the SDA, especially SJP and PKMS, we are ready to be those leaders to bring the country forward. We only humbly ask you for a golden opportunity to serve you, to be your voice, to be that listening ear, to come together with you to formulate policies that will serve Singaporeans into greater heights. The world is closing in. All countries are looking within. That whole idea of globalization and the methodologies, the ideas, the talents of the older 1G, 2G and 3G government are not going to work in the new normal. And I end off with this. Since they are calling it the new normal, maybe we need new leaders. Maybe we need new ideas. We need new talents. We need new energies, efforts and new people putting in good time so that we can have a new government and a better new future, a brighter future for all Singaporeans. Vote for the SDA. Thank you very much.